Hello, fellow non-believers, sinners, and agnostics. This is a video to the Reprieve about, he was having a discussion with Got the Funk about heaven. I figured I'd throw my 2 cents on this. I'm not going to try to talk about the existence or non-existence of heaven. I'm just going to talk about problems that I have with it and how I came about them. First, I'd like to say that thinking about heaven was originally what made me slip into a state of agnosticism and all the problems that I saw come up with it. Another thing that I'd like to address or state would be that many people, atheists for that matter, reject heaven. The idea of it doesn't sit with them well. I'll address that later in this video, but creationists, this idea seems to be completely fucking awesome, and everlasting life does sound awesome at first until you really sit down and think about it. Point number 1 that I want to make would be the concept of infinity. Heaven is everlasting life. That's an eternity, that's infinity, it goes on forever. You've got the little snake biting its tail, crossed over into a figure 8. You can't find a starting point, you can't find an end point. Infinity, it goes on forever, just like the Euler number. It climbs and climbs and climbs and climbs on that graph. It has infinite amount of values, x squared. It climbs and climbs and climbs and climbs on that graph. Infinite amount of values, you can't stop it, it gets there. That's what there is to it. So we're a finite being. We have a limited amount of existence here on Earth that could be gone just like that. No more existence. In heaven, however, doesn't apply. It's not going to happen in heaven. You're there forever, and that raised some big problems with me. There was a quote from someone, I can't remember who, and they said, "I don't know if I'd rather die and have nothing, or have to endure, or rather have to endure the infinite boredom of heaven." And that, I wish I could remember who said that, but if I find out, I'll put it in the sidebar. The concept of infinity in heaven is it's perplexing, to say the least. Or if you think you understand it, you probably don't. But that's just something my math teacher says. He says, when you think you understand infinity, you don't. So what I'm going to try to do is explain that in more simpler, common terms. Point number 1. If you go to heaven, you could talk to God for a few billion years, and He would answer all the questions you have. He'd probably ask you a few questions like, how do you think Earth was, or what did you think of this creation I made? So let's say that went on for 100 billion years. After that, you still have an infinite amount of time to do things, but you've asked God all the questions you have, and He's gave you all the answers, explaining the who, what, why, where, when, how, to every question you had in perfect detail, perfect understanding to us, not a flaw. So then you say, well, thanks God. You get up, walk over to, let's say, Jimi Hendrix, have a chat with him. You talk to all the people that are in heaven, and there's an argument could be made that there'd be newcomers, so you could talk to them, but eventually there won't be no newcomers, because the Book of Revelation says that there'll be a 7-year tribulation, and then the earth it'll be irrelevant, because everyone that God wants will come to heaven, and everyone else will be cast back into hell. So you talk to all the people, then you start playing sports. You play all your sports till you got bored. That's the thing. We're human. We get bored with things after we do them over and over and over, no matter how much we enjoy them. So after a while in heaven, you're gonna get bored. There's some things you're just gonna sit down and say, why? That's how it is. You're gonna get bored up there. That was my biggest problem. I would get bored. After doing whatever for however many years, I would just get down and say fuck. And I'd do that. I'd just say fuck. Well, I probably wouldn't, because you can't have evil in heaven. Point number 2, saying that about evil, there's no evil in heaven. It's nothing unclean can go into the holy gates. So that takes away free will. And I'll explain that now in a very monotone voice. No, I'm just kidding. So, free will. Free will is what we have here on Earth. What God gave us. So, you have free will to do whatever you want. I can take this calculator, snap it in half over my knee, no more calculator. I can take this remote, chuck it at the window, bang. No more television remote, no more window. I'm out $80 because I got to pay the university for a new window. So, that's free will. I can do whatever I want. Flip this coin, Canadian dollar, less than the American dollar. So yeah, I can do that. In heaven, let's say on Earth, I was very keen on fighting people. If I go to heaven, that's not acceptable. You can't go around beating people up in heaven because nothing evil can go in there. I wouldn't be able to have my atheistic thoughts. I wouldn't be able to have the practice I do. I wouldn't be able to read my Dawkins books. I wouldn't be able to do anything. You make the argument they don't exist, but for the purposes of my argument, just hear me out. There can be no evil in heaven. So that means you can only will to do good. If you will to do evil, it won't happen. So free will is essentially taken away from there. You take that out of the equation. Like, you fucking piece of paper. Okay. Let's just say this is the equation for free will. On this half of the equation, you have free will, and and over here you have heaven, whatever equals whatever, or other way around. In heaven, free will to okay. I'll redefine the equation. Free will to do good or do bad. Free will to do good, and heaven's over here. In heaven, that part of the equation is gone, but you can't do bad in heaven. You can only do the good. So heaven's here, goodwill's here. So you have free will to an extent, but not to the fullest extent. Another problem that Reprieve already addressed, but I want to restate again, is the infinite amount of punishment for finite amount of existence. If I do a number of bad things here, and they outweigh the good, I'm probably going to hell. So I get an infinite amount of punishment for a finite amount of bad things done. There we go, simple term. So that doesn't sit well with me either. You shouldn't get punished infinitely for evil. Like, we don't even have a judge. You can get life in prison, but usually it's 25 to life. So there is some leniency there, where if you kill someone, you get 25 to life. You're not going to get an infinite amount of punishment for your existence, or sort of finite. You know what I mean? For killing a person one time, you might get your whole life, which would technically be infinity, because that would be your whole existence, in a sense. So those are my problems with heaven. The three main ones, or two, whatever the hell I said in this video. I like to end with a quote from Carl Sagan in his book Cosmos, but I'd have to look it up in the book because I forgot to mark the page number. So I think I'll just end this with the picture of Carl Sagan's book Cosmos.